our new cluster gauge finally showed up in the mail. It's a replacement part. It's not exactly the same as the original one. As you can see, the scales on the gauges are a lot smaller. The lenses on the idiot lights are smaller and not marked. And the chrome bezel is slightly different. But at least hopefully it'll work. We're not going to throw this one out. We'll keep it for now, and maybe somewhere down the road I'll find another one and be able to figure out what I need to do to fix this one up. But for now, we're going to install this one and get it hooked up and see what happens. All right, well, we got it in and hooked up. So let's see now. I'm going to put the battery on and we'll see what happens. Well, let's put the ignition on. Oh, okay, the lights are lettered. My apologies. All right, so far so good. The temperature gauge doesn't vary itself. So what we'll do now, I'll get a jumper wire and we'll test the gauges. Okay, first we'll test the temperature gauge by grounding it out. And you can see there, that's good. Now we'll test the fuel gauge by grounding it out. Whoops, sorry, out of frame. There we go. All right, now what we need to do is set up our new fuel gauge sending unit. Oh, and while we're screwing around with this, for our mutual benefit, I have unhooked the oil pressure buzzer. Man, it's a loud one. And before we do that, we'll need to get the tank installed back on the tractor. Now we've got our fuel tank installed, we need to remove what's left of the original sending unit and measure the depth of the tank. And then we're going to follow the directions in this. This is a universal fuel level sender that I got at Princess Auto. It is the right ohm range for our gauge, lucky us. So we'll follow the instructions, get that set up for this tank and install it and see if it works. So here's the parts of the fuel sender. And then this little chart comes with it, and it tells you for the various depths of tank. This thing goes from a 5-inch deep tank all the way to almost 24 inches. That's pretty cool. Our tank is 7 inches deep. So what we're after is dimension A, which is the length of the float arm, needs to be 4 1/16 center to center. And the total height of it from the underside of this down to the center of the float needs to be 3 5/8. So we'll get that set up and I'll be back. I believe I will have to remove this piece here as an extension. So we'll be removing that and we'll go from there. Okay, here's our finished product. You can see there when it's in the empty position, the float is right at the bottom of its travel at 7 inches. So that should be good. Now we're going to go pop it in the tank. And I kind of think the next issue we're going to have is this stud is going to be really close to the inside of our hood. So we'll have to maybe come up with something for that. We can see here this is going to be very, very close to the underside of the hood. The only thing that saves us is this little bulge here. So what we're going to do is we're going to saw this stud off just on top of this nut, and that should buy us the space that we need. Aside from that, at least it works. What I've done now is got this cable. I put a little clip on there to hold it. That's the cable for the starting aid. It's just basically like a grid heater in a Cummins 5.9 that heats up the intake manifold here. That's all good. What we're going to do now is see if we can figure out some kind of a better gasket for this bowl because it's still leaking. I was kind of hoping that as it sat here and the fuel got at the gasket that it would kind of, soften it up or whatever and make it stop leaking, but it has not. So we're going to have a look at it. Here's the old gasket, and you can see there's nothing left of it. It's all squashed. So I found one for a Ferguson or an 8N, We're going to try that in there. It's a little tiny bit bigger than the jar, but it should go up in. All we could do is try it. All right, let's see what happens now. I've opened this valve. I've opened the vent on the primary fuel filter. Now, if we operate the lever here, we should be able to start pumping some fuel, into this pump. Yeah, you can see it's starting to come out there. Oh, we can move our drip tray over to there. I just want to get this thing filled up and make sure it's not going to leak. I guess for now that's as full as we're going to get it for whatever reason. I think there's air trapped in there. Now we'll get this thing closed up. Next up, we're going to install a PTO shield on this thing because it didn't have one. And let me tell you, that was a party. We had to get the anchors for the sway chains off. And those 1/2-inch nuts, well, they've been on there since 1958 and they weren't too interested in coming off. So it was a torch required job, but we got it off now. So while this all cools off, we're going to go do something else. What we're going to do now is get our battery anchored down. It just kind of floats around in the tray here because, number one, all the original hold down stuff is missing. And number two, this thing originally used two 6-volt batteries in series and to make the 12 volts to crank it. Because in those days they didn't have great big 12-volt batteries, I guess, that would I don't know what they were thinking, but that's how they did it. Anyway, we've gone with a Group 27, a single. So what I did was I got this kit. I guess it's for boats or RVs or something. It's for holding down a Group 27 battery. So we're going to pull the tray out and see if we can make this work on this thing. So here's the first step. I've got the plastic tray. It's kind of a nice little tray. It keeps anything that leaks out of the battery from getting at your metal, right? I've got that bolted down to our metal tray. Now, the idea with this tray is they give you the studs, and they're supposed to go down through there with the nut on the back. But because of the way this thing slides over top of the transmission, I can't do that. I haven't got the room underneath. So we just put some 1/4-inch carriage bolts under there. Now I'm going to go and make sure it still slides through. Yep, that's good. It still slides. So now we'll get the battery fit into it and get the hold downs and everything all sorted out. All right, so now we bent this thing like this, and it's going to just go up in here like so. And, up through the tray like that. And that'll hold the battery down perfectly. And now we'll make a copy of it for the other side. Yeah, that's pretty good, eh? Now we can go put it in. So here's our new dilemma. This all works great, but now I've got my battery cut off there, and when we put the cable on, you can see here, it hits the top of the hold down. Now, an easy solution would be to just take a bite out of that, but I don't really want to do that because that'll kind of weaken the structure of it. I tried to turn it so this thing pointed straight out the back, but it hits there. So that's not going to work. Another option would be to take the lug off of this and just put an eyelet and bolt it right on there. That's something we could do. But for now, what I'm going to try is just, I could put this on there sideways and it works. So that's what we're going to do for now and see if we can find a place for the other end of it, because I don't think it's going to go where it was before. What are you going to do? If I had this is a Group 27. If I had a 27F, it would be reversed, and my negative terminal would be over here, and I could stick this out this way. But it's a Chrysler one, so it is what it is. We'll figure it out. That's what happens when you modify things. There we are. That'll work for now. I kind of think what I may do in the end, I could put this right on the battery and go off of here and use one designed for a GM side terminal battery. I may even have one. And that I could do the battery disconnecting down here. That could work. But for now, it's good. And then there's one of these little arrangements on each side that locks the battery place from sliding back and forth. So our battery is in there, good. That's excellent. All right, this monkey business is all cooled off now. What I've got to do first is I've got to get all the studs kind of set back to the right depth. This is the only one that never moved, so that's my model. I got to measure how deep this is, and then the rest of them, I have to back off these jam nuts, turn the studs into the right depth, and re-jam them. Okay, we got that all sorted out. It was a little bit fun. It would have been easier just to take the studs out and do it on the bench, right? But of course, because I wanted to clean up the threads and such. But anyway, we got it. The studs go right through into the soup. So if I take this stud out, 5 gallons of gear oil is coming out with it. So we had to kind of do them in situ. But it's okay. We got it. All worked out. So we'll see if this thing fits. I looked it up. It's supposedly the right one for this tractor. And if you see here, these things are flat till they get over there, and then they curve out. And I believe that's to allow room for the PTO guard. Only one way to find out. There, what do you know? It actually fits. It goes down in there like we figured it would. So yeah, it's the right one for the machine. Good. Oh, now we got to put the hood back on. That's good. The hood's on, and you can see there, it's not touching the stud on the gas gauge. That's good, so we're not going to get a short. Now, somewhere around here, there's a big rubber grommet that goes around this. I don't know what the heck I've done with it, but it'll turn up. When we find it, we'll just stick it on. Got the exhaust on. At some point, I would like to get the proper... there's a two-piece, like a crab clamp that goes across there. I may have to end up making one on the mill. But for now, you can't make it until you've got the right exhaust parts on, because you don't really know the depth of where that is compared to the hood. At some point, I'm going to have to buy a replacement muffler and stack, because these ones are on life support. But for now, that's cool. It works. And I went ahead and put a nice aluminum spinner on a steering wheel. Wow, this is looking good now, isn't it? And we threw just a few miscellaneous tools in there. A set of wrenches, some screwdrivers, pliers, and a hammer. You never know what you might need when you're out trolling around. I just happened to look on the floor, and there was the grommet, so we got that on. Now, next we got to deal with the governor. And the governor has 3 problems. It doesn't idle. When you close this all the way like that, close throttle, it should idle. It doesn't. It shuts off. And when you pull it all the way like that, you should get full governed RPM, which I have to look up what it is. And I don't think we're getting that. Now, the first thing I found out that and the stop cable attaches to something down here. The first thing I found out was the idle stop screw was completely missing. And I looked in the book, it looks like just a 1/4 inch fine bolt with a jam nut. So that's what we've put in there. I just kind of set it there for now. So we're going to get this thing running and get our curb idle set. That'll be step 1. Then once we got the curb idle set, you adjust the maximum speed, the maximum no load speed with this. So we'll get that set up, and then once we've got those 2 things set, we'll figure out what to hook this cable to. It hooks down here, right? And you can see there, you pull on it, and that takes it to no fuel. Okay, let's find out if this whole thing will crank up. We should start seeing some smoke start coming out of that exhaust. There. Okay, that means there's fuel getting into the cylinders. There she goes. All right, now let me let let up the clutch slowly and make sure it's not in gear. Okay, that's good. I'll let it run for a sec, then I'll slowly start throttling it down, and we'll see if we can get it to idle. Oh, and the charge light went out, so it's charging. That's good. No, it still dies. So we may need a longer screw. Because that one is just barely in, and it's obviously not sticking out enough to keep the thing idling. So we'll get a little bit longer. Want to try again. Okay, there we go. I had to make the screw a little bit longer because I couldn't find a screw that was longer. So right now it's idling. It's idling at 900 RPM. So we got to screw that in a little bit more. They want it to idle at 700. It's about 750, just a tiny bit more. Yep, that's pretty good. 675 to 725 is what they said, so we're in there. Now, we need to set the full speed, and that needs to be 1900. And I kind of think I want to do that outside because it's going to get a little loud. So this step is simple. We peg it, and we're looking for 1900 RPM on there. We're getting 2150 right now. So we need to slow it down. And we do that by loosening this nut, I believe. We'll try that. Yeah, so it's bouncing between 1950 and 2000. I think we'll leave it there. Now the last thing we got to do is come up with whatever brackets we need so that when we pull the stop cable, it stops. All right, so here's what we came up with. This needs to be able to float around on there apparently because I was trying to clamp it solid to this lever and it was screwing up my idle speed and it was making the thing shut off and stall. So the pictures in the manual just aren't good enough to try and figure out what exactly this is all supposed to look like. But I will eventually find one of these tractors at a show or something, or find some pictures on the old Google, and I will figure out what it's supposed to be here and reproduce it. But for now, this here, I just put this little loop in the end of the cable, which gives it the little bit of slop that it needs. And you pull on that, and you can see there that this here, you can see it go to no fuel, and then it springs back. So it works. It's okay for now until we figure out what exactly it's supposed to be. Now we'll take it for a spin. If you remember the last time we did that, it ended up with the thing on fire. But I'm hoping that's not going to happen this time. a lot better now, I'll have to tell you that. Bye, Cooper. Away we go. The steering wheel is even almost sort of straight. Man, this is great. Nice little tractor. That's great. We got her all sorted out. It runs really good. It charges. It stays cool. The gauges, yeah, they're a little bit sketchy at best. But once you get used to where they normally sit, anything out of the ordinary, they'll be sitting somewhere else, and that'll be cause for alarm. But like the temperature gauge reads just when it's normal up past the middle of the scale. But you know, it's still in the green, so we'll just take that as it is what it is. But the thing is great. We can put it to work. In I guess the next video, or kind of the last stuff we got to do with this thing, is I got to come up with some kind of brackets for the back of it so I can get the fenders back on and get the back of it narrowed back up, whether we take the wheels off that old Ferguson over there or get these adjusters loosened up and spin the wheels back in. We'll find out when we get there. But anyway, for now, it's a going concern, and I couldn't be happier with it. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning into our little channel. I hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.